Hello guys, welcome back. This is going to be the 10th video in the Databricks Free Edition series, and I want to make the videos in a flow so that you can connect with each and every videos that I create. The last one was about read CSV with pandas, and the one question that most of you have asked is to provide the code that I have written in the Databricks UI into some Git or somewhere, right? What I decided to do is show you how to integrate Databricks into version control. Whatever I write the code, I can just push it into the Git. In this case, I'm going to show you the example of GitHub so that you can also follow along with me if there is a need for me to push the code into GitHub. What is the flow? The flow is going to be this one. So Databricks repos, that's what we call it, but now there is some update into the Databricks repos. I'll show you in the UI itself. To understand in the basic terms, we are going to integrate the Git integration, and now in this case we are going to take example of the GitHub, meaning that we are going to enable the version control in our Databricks. How the things will work, you need to be having this GitHub account and Databricks account. As we are already into the Databricks Free Edition, we already have it, but the first requirement is that you need to have the GitHub account. Here I have already created my GitHub account. There is going to be a repo that I'm going to work on, but first you need to go to github.com. If you don't have any account already, you can create an account and follow along with me. What is the next step after this? There is two flow that you can do. One, you can just clone the repository, start working on top of it, but that is not reflected in the GitHub. When you make changes, you cannot push that into the GitHub because there is no connection between the GitHub and the Databricks. The next step, or the next stage, that whatever you want to call it, is that we can clone the repository, we can start working on it, and then if we push the code into the GitHub, it is then reflected in the GitHub because we will be linking our Databricks with the GitHub. This is going to be one flow. I will show you in the first place, and this is going to be the second flow, so you get to know how it works in action. Let's get started. First thing first, create the GitHub account, and inside the GitHub I have already created this Databricks tutorials. I have mentioned this in my previous video, but I'm going to work on this particular repository. The first step, GitHub account. Second step, Databricks account, as we are already in the UI of Databricks. If you don't have the data account, I recommend you to follow these videos here. I have shown you how you can create the Databricks account. The next step, let's go into the first flow where we can clone and start working into the Databricks, right? I will go into the GitHub. What you need to do is go to this code section here, click on this one, and there is HTTPS, SSH, GitHub CLI. We are going to work with HTTPS. Just copy this here, copy URL to clipboard. That's there. Now let's go into the Databricks Free Edition. I want to show you one thing first before cloning it. Cloning meaning that I want to have this repository that is in GitHub into my Databricks. That is what it's called, cloning the repository. If I go to the workspace, you can see there is a message being displayed from Databricks. You can now create a Git folders. Previously it is called repos. Outside the repos folder for simplified UI and organization, go to the home folder and create a Git folder, and you can even see here is alternatively you can click this and so on, so you can follow along with this. Now you have the privilege of cloning into wherever you want. This is what it is being shown. Your user folder under repos will be visible afterwards. It says here create a repo here. If you want to follow along with this, you can just say okay, create a repo here, and now you can just paste the thing that we just copied from GitHub. You can just follow this. I'll provide the link in the description. It does not necessarily need to be your repository, it can be mine also, but you need to have this URL, right? And then it automatically recognizes that this is GitHub. The reason I'm saying GitHub we are going to work on this is because it supports other also, GitHub Enterprise, Bitbucket, meaning that we are integrating the version control into the Databricks, right? Git does not necessarily mean GitHub only, just to make things clear here. And now the git folder name, it is automatically filled in the UI. And now I can say, okay, here is the sparse checkout mode. So here toggle the ability to clone only a specific subdirectory of your repository. This is really good also. This repository is quite small. I don't have many things there, but imagine you have different folders and don't want to be confused and clone all different things, but you just want to have this particular folder. Then you can say here is this sparse, and here is written cone patterns, inter folder path, example folder, multiple patterns, and so on, separated by line breaks. You can just have those things, but in this case let's just go with the whole repository. I will say here create git folder. It says creating git folder in the background, right? You can see here now we just cloned the repository. That is what we call it, cloned. And where it is now, it is here workspace, users, and there is this LLM exploring, so it's your email address, and then inside it we have these Databricks tutorials, and these are the 3 files that I have. If I go back to the GitHub, you can see these are the 3 files that I have and which are now being reflected here. And this is the main branch in GitHub. If you are not familiar with it, we have a thing called branches, and I just have main branch there. It is just showing me here the main branches. So I can go back here. Let me go back if it's possible, or I can just cancel it from, okay, I can cancel it. But then I created this one, and it was inside users. Inside this we have Databricks tutorials called main, right? But what happens inside the repos? If you go inside the repos, nothing happens. This is just to show you that it does not necessarily need to be inside the repos. We can go inside the users, and here we have this Databricks tutorials. And now what we can do is we can work on this. This is the file that I uploaded about DBFS. You can see it is all here. Let's say that you want to create a new file, right? Just to show you an easy way, I will just go back into the workspace again. I will go into the same Databricks tutorials Git. The thing how we do actually is when you want to do something, and if you want to push something, you create a branch, work on your branch, and then push that into GitHub or any other version control. You created a pull request, and then somebody will review your code, and that is merged into the main, right? That is the flow how it works. But here I just want to show you that if I change something here now, right? Let me say that I want to create a file here. I will give it a name, let's say test.py. I can just give the name here and say, okay, print hello. I will save this. If I save this here, it is inside this particular Git repository. If I go back to the workspace, you can see there is the test.py. But now you can think yourself, we updated something inside the repository, but it is reflected in the GitHub, right? That is the goal of having the repositories, cloning, and so on, right? Here we already created a file, but now if I go into the GitHub, because we cloned this particular repository, it is not reflected here. And now if I go into this main, you can see there is a test.py file being created. This is what we write there. Here is a place to commit the message. But let's try to commit and push. We haven't linked our GitHub into the Databricks. If I just commit and push, you can see error pushing changes. No Git credential configured, but credential required for this repository is this one. Request ID, how to fix, add a new GitHub Git credentials below. It says provide something here. Now you can see it is just saying here the URL. It already knows there is the GitHub, and here it says default or provider. This is a way how you can add Git credentials already here. This is one way, and you can see here it says view, edit your Git credentials, configure Git credentials docs. You can go into the documentation, view whatever you want to do, right? But if I go from here into the Git credentials, it will take me here. How do you want to create it? Link a Git account, or do you want to go with the personal access token, right? You can give the name and link it. This is one way of doing it. If you want the other way, I will just cancel this for now. You can go into the settings on the top, your email address, go to the settings, and down here you can see there is this linked accounts. What I'm trying to show you is the second flow, because first we went through this flow and it is not reflected into the GitHub, right? So now this is the second flow where we can link our GitHub with Databricks, and then our changes will be reflected into GitHub, right? I hope you are following here. There is two places. Either you can already do from the thing that I just mentioned, or from here also it says Git integration. You can just click okay, Git integration. This is the same UI we get when we were trying to commit and push before. We didn't have the Git integration, right? Here it just says Git provider. Oh yes, we want to go with the GitHub. And nickname, you can just provide the name. By default it is here GitHub and today's date. You can go with personal access token. You need to get the token and then provide it here. To generate a GitHub token, you need to follow this documentation. You can follow along with that also, but I will go with the easiest one. Easiest one meaning that we already have this GitHub in the same browser logged in. We can just say okay, I want to link the Git account, and I will just say link. It will be showing me another UI. Do you want to link it or not? It says linking account successful, but for you the first time, because I already did this before, so it didn't show me. It already went into GitHub and connected, but for you it will be showing you, do you want to provide access to it, and you need to be approving that, and then will be connected. You can see we are connecting our GitHub into the Databricks. What happens with the same command that we tried to push? But before going into that, I just want to show you what we did was we just follows this linking GitHub and Databricks step, and we already cloned this. These steps are the same. We start working on it. We have one file there, and now let's try to commit and push if that is now reflected into the GitHub, right? I will go here again, and I will go to my workspace. I will go inside the Databricks tutorials. Here is the file. I will just click the file again to make sure I have something. Okay, print hello. I will add something here. Okay, print connecting to GitHub. I will save this one and close this one. I will go back into the workspace. Now I am in the Databricks tutorials into the main branch. I will be working only on the main branch right now, but you can I might create a separate video how you can work with branches, how you can commit and so on, normal Git flow. Here I will just go into this main. Whenever you make changes, the good practice is you can just click this branch icon. It will open this, and here you can see now there are many things. Here is the branches section where you can see many branches. Now we just have main, so it's showing main. You can create a branch from here. Here in the three dots you can see there is reset hard. This is a Git command, but let's not go into that. You can see the history. You can pull the changes. When we clone this repository, something might have already changed. If you pull, it will be pulling everything into this cloned repository by reflecting whatever it is in GitHub. That's how you can pull things. Here is the test. We just want to push this one. I will write the commit message here. I can say, and by the way, you need to have the commit message. It says here required, right? I will say here commit. This all. If you want to provide more description in GitHub, the idea is the initial commit message can be quite short. That's preferable. And then if you had made many changes, you can write in the description, these are the things that I changed. Why it is necessary is when you are working on some projects. Here I'm just showing you in the main branch, but you will be working on in some other branch, like feature branch, let's say, in a way, and then you make some changes and you request a pull request. The reviewer must know what you changed. If you provide this description quite clearly, the viewer's job will be much more easier, because they can go through the code, but then if you already provide the description, okay, I made the changes, but then these are the descriptions that is made changes inside these particular files, then it's quite easier for the reviewer. Now I can commit and push. If I do commit and push, it should be reflected in GitHub. You can see it says successfully committed and pushed changes to the branch main, because we are working on the main. And now here it says no changes files. If you start changing the files, it will appear here. You can write the commit message and so on. Just to show you the flow here again, this is the first flow. Now this is the second flow. It should be reflected in GitHub, right? Let me go into GitHub. This is the file which we had before we commit and push. Now if I refresh the page, there should be a file called test.py, right? If I go here, If I refresh, now you can see there is a file called test.py, and this is the initial commit message that we provided. We have this connection between GitHub and Databricks. Whatever changes you made, you can push the changes. The pulling things is also, this is another thing. I just want to show you that also. Let me say that for some reason I'm doing this in the UI itself, but here I will just do, okay, this repo holds the content from my Databricks Free Edition YouTube playlist. I want to have the full stop at the end, and I will do the commit changes. I will say update readme, and then I will say commit changes. What we just did is we directly changes something in the data in the GitHub itself. Now this is not being reflected here. If I refresh this page also, it will not be reflected because it is connected, but pull, push, commit, add, these kind of things are there. If I go into the readme here, so you can see in the readme there is no full stuff here. This is the Databricks tutorial. The repo holds the content. There is no full stuff here. How to reflect the changes that you made in the GitHub account here. That is when the pull was there. If I go now here, we don't have anything that needs to be pushed into the GitHub, but we made some changes into the UI itself. What I was trying to reflect is maybe another developer made some changes, and that is now pushed into the main branch, and you want to be reflecting that change into your Databricks cloned repository. And now you can see here already that it is saying here that you are one commit behind. If you just hover on top of it, it will show you the message. It says one commit behind the main. This is already good idea that you were working on something and somebody made changes in GitHub. Do you want to pull it? Yeah, I can just click this one, and this is really important. Proceed with pulling. What happens is pulling will clear the outputs, cell outputs, visualizations, dashboards in the updated notebooks. Are you sure you want to proceed? Why it is mentioning this is, let's say somebody pushes the code into the GitHub. You are working in the same branch and you have some visualizations, cell output, meaning that you printed something into the notebooks, and then there is some dashboards and so on which you are working. But if you do the pull, what happens is your current code base that you are working is then updated with the one that is from the GitHub. It is warning you here that, okay, it clears all these things. Are you sure you want to proceed? This is already a good message. I can say yes, let's confirm, and I'll do confirm. All the changes are being successfully pulled. You can see here successfully pulled changes, and I can close this, and now you can see there is a full stop here, meaning that our repository that is cloned in the GitHub is same what is in the GitHub UI. Now you can just make some changes and push the changes and so on, right? This is how you can integrate the GitHub and the Databricks. I hope you get the point, okay, how you can do things Databricks and how you can push the code so that everything is in GitHub. This is a good practice. Whatever you do now in the future, you can create a GitHub repository, clone that into the Databricks Free Edition or in the main Databricks also, but we are working in the Free Edition. I am mentioning you the Free Edition. Here you can try something, and then what you can do is commit the changes. It will be saved into GitHub, meaning that if you want to work with the same notebooks, you just write the Python files, because you can work in VS Code or other places. You make some changes in Databricks, you push the changes into GitHub, you can clone that somewhere else outside Databricks, and you can start working on that. Or you can share with your friend. Your friend said, okay, let's try. Here is the GitHub link, and that should be public, because if public, or you can have the private, but you can have the collaborators there. But this is a little bit too technical into the GitHub side. But if you are completely new also to the GitHub and related stuffs, you know how to create the account. By the way, to create the repository, how you can do is you can just go the plus icon, your repository, you can give the name, description, and then create a repository. That is it. It will be created there, and you can clone that repository into Databricks. I hope that is clear. Now with related to Databricks repos or Git folders, what it is being called there now. This is really good way of learning things so that everything is in GitHub and you can work in different places. I hope the video is helpful. You learned something out of this video. I will be now also pushing the changes of the code that I have done in Databricks into the GitHub. You can just go into GitHub. I will provide the link in the description, but you can see that whatever I make changes will be here. You can clone this repository and start working along with me when I create the videos. I hope that would be really helpful. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.